Hey guys, Govin here with another video. I had originally planned to do a video for Midnight Gala Lilius, but with the recent changes to Lone Crescent Bellona in the latest balance adjustment, I wanted to make a follow-up video to my first one, my guide, where I kind of explain the changes, what they mean for her playstyle, and how this compares to the old Bellona. So starting off with her skill 1, the only change is that it gained a Soulburn effect, which increases the damage it does by around 77%. So if you were going to do about 10,000 damage beforehand, now when you Soulburn, you'll be doing close to 18,000 damage when you burn. And this means that rather than her S3 being the only skill you have to try and execute a unit, her S1 becomes a much bigger threat as well when you have access to souls. Next up is the huge change to her S2, which means that instead of 15 fighting spirit gain for every time an ally is attacked, you now gain 20. This means that rather than needing 7 hits to activate All Eyes on Me, you now only need 5. This is very, very significant because she now stacks much faster than the previous iteration. And then when you take into account units like Navy Captain Landy, for example, when she counterattacks and procs her salvo fight, you're not guaranteed to activate your S2 every time this happens. This is a really big damage increase the more AoE units your opponent has, and this gives her way more opportunities to heal between opponents' instances of damage. So she's much improved into things like Navy Captain Landy, Abyssal Euphine, even Last Rider Crow, although that matchup is a little bit more tricky. The last change is to her skill 3, which lost the 30% damage increase you gained from being buffed, as well as the Soulburn effect, which would reduce the cooldown of your skill 3 by 2 turns, allowing you to use it every 2 turns instead of 4. This represents a big power shift from her skill 3 to her skill 1 and 2, as you now need to wait 1 extra turn between skill 3s, meaning you can no longer skill 3 to chain permanent vigor buff. And overall, while they have increased the damage it deals, with the loss of the damage increase while being buffed, you suffer about 12 to 15% damage decrease overall, and then you no longer have the option to skill 3 with vigor, so that's an even bigger decrease. This shifts the focus a lot from her skill 3 to execute units every 2 turns, to now being able to make a play more often with her Soulburn on the skill 1. Now here I have some numbers from a general 5-turn skill rotation based on my own damage, where we have the old Bellona on the left, assuming she can Soulburn her skill 3 turn 1, but does so without having a buff, and the new Bellona on the right in green, assuming she gets just one more skill 2 off compared to the old Bellona. These conditions mean we will see the peak performance of the old Bellona compared to the worst possible performance of the new Bellona. And as you can see, the new Lone Crescent Bellona does just 1.8% less damage at her worst compared to the best possible scenario of the old Bellona, which is where we assumed she could Soulburn her skill 3 turn 1, which more often than not would not have been possible, and then we also assumed she would have enough souls to Soulburn her skill 3 every turn it's available after that. Overall, this buff raises the damage ceiling of Bellona massively with a minuscule decrease to her damage floor, meaning that these changes make her much better, especially in this meta where we have all these DPS and tank slash supports such as Navy Captain Landy, Abyssal Euphine, Ambitious Tywin, Last Rider Crow, Ocean Breeze Luluka, who are all riddled with AoE skills. So when this balance adjustment was announced, I was one of those who was really afraid that this would ruin Bellona for a lot of players, and I know my guildmates and Winnowish shared similar concerns with how they changed her playstyle from this kind of assassin type bruiser who would kill off a unit every skill 3 after her first while soul burning and maintaining her vigor buff, to now being much less reliant on her skill 3 and gaining a lot of power in her skill 1 and skill 2. However, I think Smilegate have done a really good job at keeping her winning matchups either the same or better, and then improving a lot of other matchups as well. So I think a lot of the things I said in my first video are still true. I do think destruction is still the way, as the build got even stronger, while the counter build did get slightly worse, because part of the reason people would run counter set was because you could get extra fighting spirit from the counter S1s, but I think the change to S2 has fixed a lot of her cycling issues, and I think having her high damage is still the most important thing, as you need to be able to kill things and then obviously a good amount of bulk so she can survive. So I would still suggest Destruction and Penetration set with critical hit damage necklace. Attack, health, or defense ring are all fine depending on your gear substats, and then speed boots aiming for about 150 to 175 speed. Thank you guys a lot for watching. I hope this has provided some quick insight into how the buff has affected Lone Crescent Bellona, and I'll see you guys in the next video.